Welcome to This Might Be Personal, Episode 5 Weightless. Recovery is a funny thing. It doesn't happen all at once. One day you realize you're walking a little faster. Another day you realize you aren't searching for words quite as often. Then one day you pick up a kettlebell again. But after a stroke, getting stronger isn't just about getting stronger. I wasn't only trying to rebuild my body, I was trying to prove to myself that the person I was before was still in there. The person who trusted her body, the person who chased hard things, the person who believed she could do more than she thought possible. I found my way back to kettlebells. Every week, I would meet with Shannon. All right, she'd say, 1 minute, right arm, 1 minute, left arm. Keep your elbow close. Let the momentum do the work. Swing, clean, drive. There is a moment in kettlebells that never stopped amazing me. The moment after the clean, the moment earned by the drive, the moment when everything becomes weightless, the moment you forget how heavy it all was. That's where I thought I was, weightless. And maybe that's why kettlebells meant so much to me, because I wasn't just learning a movement, I was learning how to trust myself again. I was learning that my body could still do hard things. I think part of why finding my way back to kettlebells meant so much was because I had been trying to get back to another moment. July 15th, 2024. Before the hospital, before the questions, before I knew the word PFO, I was sitting in a restaurant waiting for the results of the Weightless challenge. We couldn't all be together in person for the announcement. So instead, they shared a video announcing all of the winners. All of the competitors were together in a chat, watching and waiting. And even though we weren't in the same room, our emotions were palpable. The excitement, the nervousness, the anticipation. I remember my laughter. And I remember in the video someone trying to start the drum roll too early. And then the awards started one by one: deadlift, bench, core, agility, cardio. We were all cheering for everyone, even though it was through text. And even through a screen, you could feel how proud we all were of each other. Then I heard the moment you've all been waiting for. My heart started beating faster. The final winner of the entire challenge is a pause. Amy! Everyone erupted. Woo! Let's go! We're so proud of you. I remember smiling so hard, my face hurt and my eyes welled up with tears. But that moment wasn't just about winning, it was about what it represented. For an entire year, I believed I could trust my body, not just in the gym, but in life. I lifted heavier weights than I ever thought I could. Heck, I lifted my children over my head. I carried my kids on my shoulders. I gave piggyback rides. I lifted my husband just because I could. I even started running, and I hate running, but I started because I could, because I was capable. I knew I was capable. I was the strongest I'd ever been. I trusted my body. I trusted myself. I felt unstoppable. I was watching myself soar, and I truly believed nothing could get in my way. Then, a year later, in August, I had a stroke. There was no warning, no slow decline, no gradual change. One moment, I was living in a body I trusted completely. And the next, everything changed. It wasn't turbulence, it was a crash landing. I went from feeling like I could do anything to needing to learn how to trust my own body again. The body that had carried me through challenges and goals and things I never thought I could do was suddenly the body I had to learn how to live in again. For months, I searched for an explanation. I went through test after test, hours inside MRI machines, sleepless nights leading to EEGs that gave us nothing, stress tests, ultrasounds, blood tests that took more than 30 vials. Every appointment came with the same hope. Maybe today we find out why. Maybe today we finally understand what happened. But one test after another passed, one appointment after another ended, and still nothing. No explanation, no clear path forward. It started to feel like we would never know. The hardest part wasn't just what happened, it was living with the uncertainty. Because when you don't know what caused it, you don't know if it's going to happen again. Every dizzy spell, every headache, every time my speech stumbled more than it had been recently, I wondered, was I still moving forward? Was I still recovering? Or was it going to happen again? Living without knowing meant every strange moment came with fear. And the strange thing about recovery is sometimes other people can see your progress before you can. They can see the steps forward, they can see the strength returning. But when you are living inside the fear, it can be hard to believe you're actually moving forward. Then came my transesophageal echocardiogram, the TEE. And if I'm honest, deep down, I didn't think it was going to give us the answer either. I thought it was going to be another test, another procedure, another day where we ruled something out but didn't find the reason. I thought we would move on to the next possibility, the next scan, the next thing to search for. The next thing was going to be a PET scan, looking for any remaining signs of cancer. Another fear, another possibility, another thing to carry. So when the TEE was over, I wasn't expecting a breakthrough. I was expecting the same thing I had gotten for months. We still don't know. They started wheeling me toward the exit. I was groggy. I thought the day was finished. Another test completed, another mystery still unresolved. Then I heard footsteps behind us. Hang on. My cardiologist walked over. Well, we found it. You have a PFO. The neurologists are going to want it closed. I'll work on getting that scheduled right away. Just like that, everything changed. A hole in my heart with an atrial septal aneurysm. My heart had a defect I never knew existed. There was something almost impossible to explain about the feeling. Because how do you feel excited about finding out there's a problem with your heart? How do you feel relief hearing that something inside you wasn't working the way it should? There was a strange dichotomy. I was terrified by what it meant, like that there had been a hole, that my heart had a defect, that something had been there silently, waiting, a potential danger I didn't know existed. But at the same time, the relief was overwhelming because now we know. And more importantly, it could be fixed. The thing I had been searching for had finally been found. And once I knew there was a path forward, I became impatient. For months, I had been patient because I had no choice. Once there was a plan, waiting became the hardest part. I wanted the surgery. I wanted the hole closed. I wanted to stop wondering if another clot was waiting for another bad day. I wanted my life back. So I did everything they asked, every blood test, every EKG, every appointment. I stopped medications. I started medications. I followed every instruction, the liquid only diet, the preparation, everything. Mother's Day came. Normally, I would have been celebrating with my family. Instead, I was preparing because this was it. One more procedure, one more recovery, then I could finally move forward. The next day arrived, Monday. I checked into the hospital. They put on my wristband, started my IV, asked me the same questions over and over. Name, date of birth, what procedure are you having today? Hole in the heart, hole in the heart, hole in the heart. Eventually, they started rolling me down the hallway. I watched the ceiling tiles pass above me, one after another, and I remember thinking, this is it. By the end of today, this will be behind me. The doors opened. The operating room was bright, white, almost impossibly clean, and it smelled like absolutely nothing. It was so clean that it didn't even have a smell. They transferred me from the stretcher onto the operating table. I looked around. Bright lights above me, monitors humming, metal trays, people moving with quiet confidence. And then I heard my surgeon, my doctor, talking with another doctor about how straightforward everything would be, that he didn't expect it to take long. The way he spoke was calm, confident, like this was no different than taking his dog for a walk. And then I noticed something: music, rock music playing in the background. I watched his team look at each other, their eyes making commentary before anyone said a word. A little smile, a little laugh. Then someone looked over at me. We're sorry about the music. And somehow, in that moment, it helped. Because it reminded me that I was surrounded by people who weren't afraid, people who knew exactly what they were doing, people who were there to help me. I laid there on the table thinking, I did everything right. I followed every instruction. I showed up for every appointment. I did every test. I prepared. I was ready. I am ready. And my doctor was so calm, always smiling. He talked about how smooth everything was going to go, how this was almost routine for him now. He told me the surgery was basically fun at this point, and I believed him because this was the moment I had been waiting for. The hole would be closed, the risk would be reduced. I wouldn't have to wonder anymore. I wouldn't have to question every dizzy spell, every headache, every moment my speech felt different. I wouldn't have to live with the fear of another stroke hanging over me. The weight of worrying would finally be gone. I waited for someone to tell me they were putting me to sleep. Instead, someone said, "We're going to give you medicine to help you relax." I looked over. Wait, am I going to be awake? You'll be sleepy. Sleepy. Not asleep. That wasn't what I expected. People think surviving something like a stroke makes you fearless. It doesn't. You just learn to keep going while you're afraid. But in a moment like that, lying on a narrow table in a cold, sterile room, knowing people are about to work inside your heart, it's hard to feel like Wonder Woman. The cape disappears, the armor disappears. You're just a person, hoping, trusting, waiting. I closed my eyes. I reminded myself why I was there. We found something. We had a path forward. I had done everything I was supposed to do. I thought I was back in the air. The moment after the clean, the moment earned by the drive, the moment when everything becomes weightless, the moment you forget how heavy it all was. That's where I thought I was weightless.